It's now about 36 minutes after the hour of 7 o'clock on this World Steelpan Day. Now, on July 26, 2022, Trinbagonians locally and across the diaspora flocked to Google to see our country's national instrument, the steel pan, being featured as a Google Doodle. The 1 minute and 9-second video featured the journey of the creation of the steel pan, which is the most unique and only family of acoustic instruments to be birthed in the 20th century. Now, the video was set to original music created by Lennox or Len Bugsy Sharp and jazz artist Mr. A.T.N. Charles. And joining me to discuss more about the Google Doodle is Mr. A.T.N. Charles himself and the illustrator of the Google Doodle, Mr. Nicholas Huggins. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Now.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Of course. Now, Nicholas, I'm going to start with...
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Now, Nicholas, I'm going to start with you first. I mean, we were so excited to see this doodle back in July. I was just wondering, you know, how the collaboration with Google came about, and then how did you know exactly what elements to put in that video?
Yeah, so it really all came about in about March of 2020. I was actually in England, stuck abroad in the height of the pandemic. And I received an Instagram message from an art director named Angelica McKinley, who was at Google at the time. She's since left, but she reached out to ask if I'd be interested in doing a Google Doodle. And as an illustrator, that is really one of those dream jobs. So I didn't really believe it at first. So I had to I did my due diligence, Google her. And once I realized that she was a real deal, of course, I agreed to do it. And then she basically reached out to me over email from there. And once she let me know what the actual topic of discussion, the topic of the Google Doodle was, of course, I was like all in something that represents Trinidad and Tobago on the world stage. That's definitely something that I'm all in for. So it originated back then. And of course, 2 years later, it finally launched.
Right. And is it true to guess that as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, it may have been pushed back to be released now at this time?
Yes, exactly. They were actually going to release it as just as a simple thing saying Google with the steel pan, and they were going to launch it in 2020. But after some discussions with the Google team, it was decided that we would have to add music to it to really show off the steel pan in its full glory. And with the music, we also decided it would be a fully animated feature, and that's how the rest of the team was basically onboarded into it. And then it was supposed to launch last year in July, but that was kind of at the height of COVID and lockdowns in Trinidad. So it was decided to push it back a further year.
Of course. Now, I love that you mentioned the music, because I think the composition is such an important part of this piece. And so, A.T.N., I'm going to bring you in here. You know, how did you work with Len Bugsy Sharp to, you know, build this music? And did you draw inspiration from anything specifically?
Oh, that's a great question. So, simply, yes. I drew inspiration from many different aspects of our culture, but most importantly, the job was to take the animation and kind of create a story. So between Bugsy Sharp and myself, I was in the US and Bugsy lives in Trinidad, and so he started WhatsApping me ideas. He WhatsApped me maybe 100 different ideas, one musical phrase for each one. And so I took one phrase from that, and then I created the whole thing. And then after we recorded it, I decided we wanted him to take a solo, because improvisation is such an important part of the history of the steel pan. So I sent the track back to him after I sent it to Josanne Francis, Luke Walker, and Jonathan Castro, who recorded pan, because I wanted the real pan sound. I didn't want any synthesizer or any type of sequence sound for this. I wanted it to be the real acoustic magical instrument that we know and love. And so after they all recorded their parts, then I sent it back to Bugsy in Trinidad to Beaver Henderson studio, and he recorded the solo that you hear on the last part of it. So that's how that was the musical process. He sent just the melody. I arranged it, added harmony, I added a bridge to it, and then there's actually a chorus, and there's more music that you don't hear because the music was actually 2 minutes long. But so hopefully one day you'll get to hear that as well. But that was the process.
No, I will hold you to that hopefully one day, especially as we look forward to the return of Carnival for next year. But I want to go back to Nicholas, because Nicholas, how we we have the music that was being done, but to me it looks as if when the video begins, we open on the hills of Laventille and then we move through to St. James and then we see the pan. And I mean, there was such attention to detail in this small 1 minute and 9-second video. I mean, what did you draw your inspiration from to get all those elements together to create this great piece for the national instrument?
Yeah, of course. I really wanted something that when any Trinbagonian at home or abroad looked at, they could really relate to and really feel a sense of that this is home. So I definitely drew inspiration from all the places where Pan has touched, basically from Carnival straight up or straight back to the actual invention of the instrument. So I really wanted to show something that felt true to Trinidad and Tobago. And that people, when they looked at it, they could really feel that sense of, okay, this is us. This is something that is done by someone who lives in Trinidad and really understands kind of the landscape of the place.
Of course. And at the end of it, we are seeing the pictures of where, you know, steel pans would have gone. So we see places like New York and UK and all those other countries. What was the purpose of bringing that, especially to end the video?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the birth of steel pan is in Trinidad. And of course, now pan is played globally. So we really wanted to show that apart from driving through the streets of St. James, being created here in Trinidad, it's now become an export of Trinidad and Tobago. It is something that has put us on the world stage, and it is something that we should be proud of, to see people playing pan in Japan, in Africa, like everywhere in the world basically plays pan, you know, especially like, let's say like in the UK, the US, you know, it really is an export that we should be extremely proud of.
Yeah. And as you're touching on that export, Etienne, I'm going to bring you back in here because I know as a musician, you yourself would have used the steel pan in your music. A lot of international artists are also using the steel pan. And so as we look at the evolution of the instrument, where do we see it going, let's say, in the next 10 to 15 years?
You know, that's a great question. It throughout the history of the steel pan, it's gone in and out of mainstream culture, and you see every few years major artists incorporate steel pan into either their live performance or their recordings. I mean, I specifically remember when 50 Cent came out with his song and he had the pan playing the melody. Ralph McDonald did it in the 70s with Just the Two of Us, the Bill Withers recording with Grover Washington, and you heard Robbie Grenade strumming on actual Rudolph Charles triple guitars. And so it continues throughout the history, and I think what I want to see next is I want to actually see more steel bands touring, and I know that's a great challenge because of the way that the pans have to be moved and constantly tuned, etc. But I think the next step for small chamber steel ensembles to start traveling the same way Taspo did in, I think it was 1961 or 1962. But to take out, because that's the next step, is for us, the musicians playing the indigenous instrument from Trinidad, to take what we do and go and tour. So that's what I want to see next. But it's continuously in live recordings, it's continuously in studio recordings, and I think we'll continue to see that until we make our own push to really, in addition to exporting the instrument, we export our musicians playing this instrument. So it's not just on a cruise ship and not just at a hotel poolside bar, but you're seeing it in concert halls, you're seeing it in recital halls worldwide. That's the goal.
Of course. And Nicholas, finally, I want to ask as well, why do you believe Google would have reached out to you? Because there's so many local illustrators, so many creative ones as well. But what do you think was that signature or that pull that, you know, attracted Google to you to have you partner with them to do this?
Yeah, so I actually had the very same question, and I reached out to Angelica when it launched to ask her why me, you know, because it is such an honor to be able to represent my country on this world stage. So I asked her, and she basically just said that she had done some searching for Trinidad illustrators, and she said my name just kind of kept popping up because of the amount of work that I've been putting out over the last decade or so. So I mean, it just goes to show that as a creative, if you keep putting out work, you just kind of never know who's gonna come across it and what opportunities may lie ahead. You know, and that was pretty much the reason why. And of course, she also said that I've been doing so much illustration work kind of centered around Trinidad and Tobago as my muse, that was another reason why they thought that I would be a good fit for this.
Of course. I love that little piece of advice that you're giving there. Creatives continue to push out work, and so I think that is where we will end it for now. But of course, we're going to have you gentlemen back in studio sometime in the future. So Mr. Etienne Charles, Mr. Nicholas, thank you so much for coming in and just sharing with us all the information on this World Steelpan Day. And of course, happy World Steelpan Day to you gentlemen as well.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having us.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
And that was Mr. Nicholas Huggins and Mr. Etienne Charles just sharing about the World Steelpan Day and that Google Doodle that attracted so many of us. You're on the Now Morning Show. We're going to take a quick break and be right back. Stay with us.